I'm Diogo. I'm Product and Marketing Director at Paperless Europe. And just to give you a quick overview, Paperless started more than 25 years ago in Norway. And for more than 10 years, we have been in the UK and Ireland, integrating first with Sage 50, then with Sage 200. Then it grew to Sage 200 standard. And currently, we are also completing the integration with Sage Intacct. So basically, what this means is that our customers can do pretty much the entire, and we have many customers that do that journey from Sage 50 to Sage 200. And now we also have customers going either from Sage 200 to Sage Intacct or from Sage 50 directly to Sage Intacct without having to change software and learn a new software, because they can do the entire journey with Paperless. Like I mentioned, we integrate with Sage 50, Sage 200 Professional, Sage 200 Standard, and now also with Sage Intacct. Before Steve starting showing you the presentation, I'll just like to add that there are other solutions in the market. We have a strong customer base, both on Sage 200, on Sage 50, and some of the things that differentiate Paperless, apart from the features that Steve will be showing you, is the fact that we are one of the few solutions that is priced per user and product module. That means that customers processing larger volumes of invoices, they don't need to be worried about how many invoices they will be processing. They will always be paying the same. So they have unlimited number of invoices, unlimited number of transactions, and they just pay per user and product module. We also, the way the integration is developed is that the communication with Sage is instant. It takes 2-3 seconds, so there's no delay between posting a transaction from Paperless and having it visible in Sage, or if the user, for example, needs to edit the OCR template or an aliases, for example, they don't need to ask the third-party software to do that. They are in full control of the software. They can do that directly in the software. Okay, so they are not constrained by the templates or aliases that were previously set up during the training. You'll see during the demo that it's not, Paperless is not just about the data capture part, okay? We cover the entire spectrum, so from invoice data capture to PO matching to invoice approval with automation rules of the approval process based on supplier, departments, projects, nominals, approval thresholds, approval amounts, okay? To full automation of email invoices with company inbox, meaning that, and this is especially important for customers using POs, is that by using company inbox, they can have the invoices brought in, received via email, automatically matched to the PO in Sage, and if there's a match, we close off the PO post the transaction. That means that if 60 or 70% of the invoices match the transactions in Sage, our customers only need to focus on the 30 or 40% of the invoices that for some reason do not match the transaction in Sage. And that's the main goal of Paperless. And this is a feature that is widely used by our customers and with proven results. Like I said, we cover the entire spectrum, so we also have PO requisition for both Sage 50 and Sage 200. So that's the process prior to receiving the invoice, but it's something that we had many requests for, is customers with the need to have approval process prior to raising the PO. So that's why we have also implemented PO requisition for both Sage 50 and Sage 200. Again, since we have customers from many different business sectors with different needs, the requisition process also is flexible enough to cater for the needs of the different customers. Steve might address this, but another thing that is especially important for Sage 200 customers is the management of disputes in Sage, okay, which is something also quite unique. When customers send invoices for approval with paperless, they have the option to use the dispute method. What that means is that the invoices are sent for approval, but they will be put on hold in Sage. So we raise the dispute flags in Sage, okay, so that they are stopped for payment. Sage 200 customers tend to be larger organizations, and for accrual purposes, they need to have the invoices as soon as possible in Sage, even though they have not yet been approved. Then once they are approved in paperless, we automatically make the changes in Sage and remove the dispute flags from within Sage, okay? And I think this gives you quite a good overview of how the system works. Okay, finally, just to mention that another differentiating factor is the fact that paperless installation takes 1-2 hours, is done remotely, and the vast majority of our customers are up and running with one-day training, which usually can be done on-site or online. So in terms of implementation, it's quite straightforward, and it works well. So it's a well-tested solution. We have been working with Sage Sage customers for more than 12 years. And I think now I'll pass on to Steve, who is going to give you an overview of paperless for Sage 200 so that you have a better understanding what the software does and what it can offer to your customers. In the end, we'll simulate an average quote so that you have an idea of pricing, and we'll also address the revenue share once we are simulating the quote so that you have a better understanding of the revenue share that we have in place for partners and what that would represent for you. So, Steve, you can take over now.
Yeah, thank you, Diogo. And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Paperless. So here I am on my dashboard. This gives me a simple and easy overview of what's happening with my paperless, where I've got documents and where they are within the process from the originating in my inbox on my desk all the way through to my filing cabinet, which is accounting archive. So let's go into without further ado, let's go into my desk, to my inbox. And this is where the invoices are going to arrive initially. And you can see there's a variety of invoices in here from different suppliers. And as Diogo mentioned earlier, Paperless is about automation. It's about removing those manual tasks, those mind-numbing tasks of inputting data directly into Sage 200. But it's more than that. It's about complexity as well, because clients do have complexity, and Paperless addresses us. That's why they come to us. But also during the process, it's about control. It's about the accounts team knowing exactly what's going on, and if necessary, they can intervene as required. But also, as you're sending things for approval and you're posting transactions to Sage, you're creating an audit trail. So when your auditors, or when the auditors come in for the clients, they can see what's been happening, whether that be approval, etc. Okay, so here are some invoices in Paperless, but let's bring one in. Now I am going to show you, and Diogo did mention company inbox, but I'm just going to bring one in manually here. Straight from the email, drag and drop, and you can see there I've now got a new invoice in Paperless for me to process. So that's ready to go. I will take you through the manual process of just adding a journal type. And what you can see here is the journal types are not just supplier invoice, supplier credit note. You can, with Paperless, process all the journal types available in Sage 200. So I've told Paperless what they are, and now I'm going to just run the document recognition on that particular invoice there. And you now see you've got some accounting information which has been automatically added from reading from the document. Now, one of the other reasons clients come to us is they say, but look, that's great, I've got the invoice, but I want to add things to that. I might need to add the email, or I might in fact need to add a delivery note. So I can scan the delivery note in directly to Paperless if that's available from the scanner, or I can print it in. But once I've got that delivery note, and there's my invoice and there's the delivery note, I don't need to merge these outside Paperless. I can do it inside Paperless. So what I have here is now the invoice and the delivery note merged. But what's more, even if I want to, or I want to change things, I can change the order of the documents that I've merged, and also I can split if that's necessary. So let's just rerun the invoice recognition on that. Now we've merged it together, and let's run the document recognition to pick up the accounting information. I'm not going to go into the accounting information in too much detail, but there are one or two things that I think it's important for me to point out. Number one is you can see here that Paperless is fully integrated with department, project, and cost center. But also, if your clients use transaction analysis codes, Paperless can populate those automatically. But one of the features of Paperless is you don't need to jump between Sage 200 and Paperless. So if I want to look at all my suppliers, I've just pressed one key and they're all there and I can search for it. And the same goes for any of the other fields here, such as the nominal, and indeed, I've just highlighted it. There are my transaction analysis codes, and that works on department, cost center, project, or tax codes. Okay, now, before we go any further, a couple more features just to highlight. One is, this is a credit note, but let's make it complicated. Let's say, okay, I brought this in, but I told Paperless it was an invoice. And you can see I've changed the journal type. I run the document recognition on it. Paperless knows the damn sight better than I do, and has automatically, as you can see, corrected that and put that back to a credit note. Now, this is automation. What is the biggest challenge with automation? Well, our clients say to us, duplicates. You're automating everything. How will we see there's a duplicate? There's an example. So Paperless has detected a duplicate within itself. So it's saying document, and this is highlighted in the comment section here. It's saying that's an identical invoice to document 1062. And if I click between the two, you can see that it is indeed a duplicate. Okay, but that's a duplicate within itself. Paperless will also detect duplicates from any transaction that has been already posted to Sage 200. And this is not 50%, this is not 60%, this is 100% identifications of duplicates. And Paperless, even if I ignore the message, Paperless is not going to allow me something to do something that will create a duplicate in Sage 200. So I'm going to just delete that from there. Okay. I said I wasn't going to go into the accounting information in too much detail, but I will just show you this one because rather than creating one accounting line, Paperless has created two based on the lines from the invoice. So in Paperless, there's the ability to add the multi-line module and automatically create accounting lines. Now, let's post some of these transactions to Sage. So I'm going to select more than one because where I can, where I'm able to do this, why not post or do everything across a range of invoices? So I've selected several from this list and highlighted them, and I'm simply going to post these to the accounting system. So there you go, 5 invoices posted to Sage. Now, if I go into Sage and go into my purchase ledger, let's have a look at something that's been posted by Paperless. Now, as Diogo said earlier, these are instant. So let's have a look at SIFT. So you can see there is the transaction posted by Paperless. So there it is, posted, instantly available in Sage. New button for your clients, Paperless. which if I click will show me the image of the invoice. And if you recall, there's the supporting documents also attached with that. But you say, well, that's fine. That's a Sage user. They've got a Sage license, and they've also got a paperless license. But what happens if I've got users who don't have a Sage license? Do I need to go out and buy them? Do they need to go out and buy a Sage license to use paperless to see the images of invoices? No, they don't, because every paperless license holder has, if I go back to my dashboard, has Accounting Archive. So without a Sage license, invoice approvers, for example, can look at the images of the invoice. That's the one we've just seen from Sage. They can look at the images of the invoice and, if necessary, search by a range of any of those criteria across a range of invoices that have been posted to Sage. Paperless Accounting Archive. Okay, let's go back to my inbox because I want to look at some invoices which relate to purchase orders. So I've got one here for VoxHub, and you can see here that Paperless has populated a purchase order number. Let's quickly just nip back into Sage and look at some purchase orders, or look at the purchase orders in Sage, and we can see those, and then we can match and close those from Paperless. So purchase order list here, and I've got some for these ones here for VoxHub, and I think I've got an invoice to grab it and run as well. Now these are simple purchase orders, as you can see, one item, and in a perfect world it will be one invoice per one item on the purchase order and matching the value, but that's not the real world. So there are ones where there will be more than one invoice to one purchase order, and there will be invoices which relate to multiple purchase orders and multiple GRNs. Okay, so I'll be able to show you how we can do those. So let's just have a look. You've seen the purchase order in Sage, and now I'm looking at it from Paperless. So again, I don't need to keep jumping between Sage and Paperless. I can just look up that there. And without further ado, I'm going to let Paperless do the work. So free invoices which relate to purchase orders. And what Paperless is doing here is looking to match the value on the invoice against the invoiceable amount on the purchase order. The invoiceable amount on the purchase order is the amount that was placed on order, that's been goods received, less anything that's already been invoiced. So again, three invoices, and I'm simply just going to post those to Sage. Now, let's go into Sage and let's look at the supplier list, and let's look at the one for VoxHub, which we've just sent. Okay, and let's just drill down a little bit further. This is the first one that I've posted, and you can see the source is purchase order processing. So Paperless has matched and closed the purchase order, and the purchase order has created the transaction in Sage. Okay, so that's matching and closing on a purchase order. If I go back to my purchase order list, you can now see those three purchase orders are now showing as completed in Sage. Okay, I mentioned that in some instances, two invoices, one purchase order. If you're matching on the value, how do you do that, Paperless? Well, when you receive the goods in Sage, it creates a goods received note number. And all I need to do in Paperless is to just add the relevant goods received note number in order to tell Paperless what amount of the invoiceable amount to match and close. And there I can now just simply part match and close that purchase order. And then with the second one for grab it and run, I can apply a second GRN, or indeed, because that's the remaining amount, I can simply just post that to Sage. But I did mention about the supplier GRN number. Now, generally, the supplier GRN reference number is a delivery note number. So there's a delivery, it's got several purchase orders, multiple GRNs. but it has a common delivery note number. So when that's GRN'd in Sage, the delivery note number is put in the supplier GRN reference, and Paperless can use that. It doesn't need a PO number, doesn't need a GRN. It can simply use that to match or part match and close multiple purchase orders from the system directly. And if I just jump back into Sage, go back to my supplier list just to complete the process. If I just go to grab it and run, and just look at the transactions posted, so you can see the balance is £81.60, 2 invoices, 1 purchase order, and that has now matched and closed, or part matched and closed, and then fully matched and closed from there. Now, many of our clients, when they are using purchase orders module in Paperless, will use it in combination with Company Inbox. Company Inbox is a brand new, or is a new email address we established for clients to receive invoices and credit notes. That's communicated, that address is communicated to the suppliers. The suppliers start sending their invoices and credit notes to Company Inbox. So here I'm sending, if I was a supplier, I'm sending an invoice which relates to a purchase order to Company Inbox. Now, before we receive that, it would be a good idea to look at what we're actually looking to match and close. So let me highlight that one there. So you see it's been goods received, but no invoice yet received it. So what is Company Inbox doing? How does it work? Well, it works on the basis of automation rules. And the automation rules will tell Paperless what to do each hour when it checks Company Inbox. So if I look at the one here which relates to Veolia, and I go behind the scenes a little bit, this is the key element, and this is why our clients use Company Inbox for purchase order, because Paperless, if you receive an email into Company Inbox with an attachment that is an invoice, when you bring it in and you run the recognition and you find the supplier, the date, the invoice number, the amount, and the PO number, as long as that amount matches the value on the purchase order, and I should mention you can put a variance, so it doesn't need to match exactly. If it matches the amount or within the variance, automatically match and close the purchase order, create a transaction. No human intervention required. Full automation from the supplier's email all the way through to Sage. Now, as I mentioned, it's every hour Paperless checks this. Guys, you and I haven't got an hour. So I'm going to force this one through. So that's now completed. There's nothing in my Company Inbox. So what has happened? Well, what has happened is if I go into Sage and I just refresh my list, there is the completed purchase order from the supplier email. And now on my supplier list, again, I'm emphasizing all my ducks were in a row, and therefore I did not need to intervene. So in terms of your clients' accounts teams, using Company Inbox for purchase orders, and there it is, using Company Inbox to match and close purchase orders means the only ones they're going to see are where it doesn't match, there's something wrong with it, or it's a part delivery and requires a good received note. So 80, 70, 80% of invoices relating to purchase orders can be automatically processed. That's the image that was created directly from Company Inbox. That's looking at the image from Sage. And if I want to, I can look at the original email as well from there. So that's matching and closing purchase orders. Right. One thing we haven't covered is approvals. So let me again go back to my inbox. And I've got some invoices here that I can send out for approval. Now, there are various ways to automate this approval process. Now, if I highlight both of them, this is the first time I've actually dealt with these. So I can attach a recipient. These are my approvers. Now, one of the ways I can automate this is to say, okay, Paperless, every time you see this supplier VoxSub, then it's Darren Langley who approves it. And if I just simply do that once, that means that every time Paperless sees voxel, it would add Darren Langley for me. Now, you wouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to just add in some comments here, just so that you can see the audit trail. So that's one of the ways you can automate it. Now, I now have an audit trail created, and you can see the comments being added, and there's a deadline. Deadline's great, guys, because it puts pressure on the approvers, or emphasis on the approvers to approve in a timely fashion. But also the accounts team will be able to chase up the ones that have gone beyond the deadline. So I talked about control earlier. That's one of the elements there which relate to that. But there are other ways to automate this. For example, it can be done by making a person responsible for a department, a project, a cost center, a transaction analysis code. So each time Paperless would see those on the accounting lines, it would add an approver automatically. And the final way is by nominal. You can say, okay, this person is responsible for nominal 5,000. Every time Paperless sees 5,000, it would automatically add an approver. But we can go further than that. We can say, okay, Darren Langley is saved as the approver for this supplier. But what happens if it's above his limit? In Paperless, you can set limits for approvers, and automatically Paperless will automatically send to a second approver when the limit is actually exceeded. So these are ready to go, and I'm just going to send them out for approval, and they've left my Paperless or my inbox. Okay, accounts team can still see them in their in progress view, and they can chase up and they can report on that. But what about Darren? He's the approver. How does he approve? Well, the first thing is Darren will receive an email notifying him that he's received documents for approval. There it is. And he's got two options. He can use the web version, which is the one I'm using at the moment, but he also has the option of Paperless on the go mobile, which can be downloaded from any of the various stores. So he can do it on his mobile phone, or he can do it on the web version from there. So let's just log in here as Darren on the web version first. Very, very simple. There are the two invoices in his work list. Am I happy with it? Do I want to approve it? I'm looking at the comments there. Express approval, done. Not approving an invoice is simply process the next one to it, and you send it to a person in Paperless. It may not be for you, or you send it to a person in Paperless to reject it to a person who can resolve the reason that's preventing you approving it. Back to the accounts team, request credit note, didn't receive the goods. Now, I mentioned the app. So let's go into the mobile app here. So this is a representation, guys. I don't have a mobile phone in my hand to show you. So very simple to navigate. I simply go to my work list, and this will show me a list of all invoices for approval. But one thing you notice here, this client uses purchase order requisition. So there are some requisitions in his work list as well. So Paperless will use the same methodology, the same process for purchase requisitions, which you're going to see in a minute, or for invoices. Let's just go into this invoice here. So if I click into it on my mobile phone, it shows me the document flow, the audit trail. Okay, just okay on that. I can see the document, I can see the invoice. I've got my two options, approve or process. But if I want to look at the accounting data, I can do that as well. And there you go, there's the accounting data that is actually going to create the transaction in Sage. So if I'm happy with that, I just simply express approve it, and there you go. All right, so that's the approval process in Paperless. Now, Diogo mentioned default or dispute approval. So when I activated that approval or that document flow, a transaction could have been created in Sage in dispute, and that dispute would remain against that transaction in Sage until the final approval is granted, at which point Paperless will automatically remove the dispute reason. Now, back to my dashboard, because again, as Diogo mentioned, Paperless is cradle to grave. So if your clients also want P or requisitions, Paperless can accommodate that. And look, it's here in the same dashboard. Now, one thing to point out is they can have the requisition module, but without the rest of Paperless that you've just seen for the last 20 minutes. But you can have both, yeah, that's an option as well. So let's go into my requisitions and let's have a look at how this works. So here we are, right at the start, creating requisitions. There's a couple that are already here, and you can see you've got a document which has been filled out, and ultimately this is the requisition that is going to create the purchase order from Paperless in Sage, and Paperless is then going to go to receive it, but it's also the document which is going to go out to the supplier. Is this difficult to do? Well, no, it's not. If I want to create a new requisition, I just click and add. Do I want to create a new requisition? Yes. Okay. As this integrates with Sage, I can find the supplier easily, or just type it in, whatever it would be. And in adding the supplier, you now see that their address has been added to the document. The due date is when you want the goods, so 30th of March. And you can see the document is now being updated with the actual due date itself. In terms of delivery addresses, you can have multiple, or can be multiple in terms of delivery addresses. And you can see again, getting that information from Sage. Add an item line. Again, this is information from Sage. And you can see this is a list of, if I have stock items, they will be listed here. I'm just going to do a free text here and just give you an example, and just give a so 1 times just what it is. If the prices are stock, they will be populated automatically. Unit price £1,000. How many do I have on order? I can add a discount amount, a discount percentage. And you can see also on the line here, just in case I hadn't mentioned it, is you can see that you can add the carriage amount, the carriage nominal, and the carriage tax. But look, there you go. There is the document or the purchase order requisition at the start of its process. But I automated sending invoices for approval. You can also use the same rationale to automate requisition. So look, there's my document flow. Why is it going to Kevin Fisher? Because in Paperless, as soon as I added cost center, SCO, and department VAL, Kevin Fisher is responsible for those departments. Paperless added him automatically, and it's ready now to go for him to approve this purchase order requisition. But there is another way, or there are other ways. One is by value. So it may be that you say, okay, this requisitioner can create purchase orders automatically without any approval up to £500. Above £500, Paperless would automatically send it to an approver because it's beyond the limit for that. And it's very simple. I mean, once you've actually created the requisition and you've got it ready to go for approval, it's just select them all and just send them for approval. Gone, done. And that's now issued an email to the approver to approve the and he would do that in Paperless in his work list, as you saw with the mobile app. He's got invoices, he's got purchase order requisitions, but all in the same interface, same thing to do. Now, there are other views in it. So those are new requisitions. So, okay, so I've sent a few requisitions out. Where are they? I can see the ones that are out for approval. You can see that this one hasn't been approved. Steve Richmond here, the approver, has been a bit slow off the mark approving this. I do apologize, and has not approved it as yet. But I can see that that's where it is. Once it's approved, it will go to approve requisitions, and then it will be posted to Sage to create the purchase order. But the accounts team can see all requisitions. So even if they're not part of the process, they can see what's going on and see what requisitions are out there. Once the requisition has been created in Sage, it becomes a pending purchase order. And what you can see is 2 symbols here, which tell the user exactly what's going on. The padlock symbol says, yep, it's gone to Sage. There's a purchase order in Sage. The email symbol there is telling or confirming that it's actually been emailed to the supplier. And I can do it again here, or you can see the email. Default address for that supplier will come up there. It adds in automatically the order number, because when it was approved and we posted the purchase order to Sage, or created it in Sage, Paperless automatically added the PO number to the requisition, so that that's on the requisition for when it goes out, and I can add just any comment in there, and it will stay as a pending purchase order until it's fully goods received. But you can do that from Paperless. So I can create the goods received note number from here. So create the goods received note number. You can see that I can receive the various quantities that I need to. So let me just fully receive that particular line. Add in my GRN reference, which is the delivery note usually, and just post goods received. And that will update the status on the purchase order directly from Paperless. It's one interface. I can process invoices, I can approve invoices, I can create requisitions. One interface, nice and simple. But what happens if somebody's goods received already this part of this purchase order directly in Sage? No problem. Just sync the items, and anything that's been goods received in Sage is removed from this list. It's not available for me to be goods received. Once the purchase order is fully completed, that is, it's been fully goods received, it goes into completed purchase orders. This is my filing cabinet of previous requisitions. So they're here, they're stored, and they can be searched for. You can search in this list by any of the criteria that you can see there, by PO number or by supplier. But let's say I'm a requisition and I want to order exactly the same thing from Click. I simply just copy that requisition and I can start again, and it would now be a new requisition for me in my list there, and I can amend it or add to it as is necessary, fully recreated from there. Okay, so guys, I've taken you through processing PO invoices, non-PO invoices. I've shown you company inbox, where another level of automation to automatically match and close purchase orders. I've shown you approvals in Paperless using web or using the mobile app. And finally, I've shown you purchase order requisition. So I'm going to hand over to my colleagues to see if there are any questions that have been raised during the presentation that you would like me to answer.
So, Diogo, do you want to go through the questions there? Sorry.
Yes, we have some questions here, Steve. About the success rate on invoice recognition now, and how does it cater for multiple invoice formats?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you look at our website, it quotes a percentage. We would never claim to be able to do 100%, guys, based on the format of invoices that are received. What you can't fully automate, I'd always recommend you automate as much as you possibly can. Generally, invoices are received in a digital format, and company inbox is ideal for digital formats, but there are still some suppliers who will send you invoices through the post. You don't need a new scanner. If you've got a scanner, which your clients would have a scanner already, they can scan to a folder, to a file, or directly to company inbox and process the scanned copy from there. If there are other formats such as JPEGs invoices, which sometimes can happen, company inbox can handle those formats of invoice. I don't think there's a format that Paperless can't automatically process.
Also, what is the, in terms of approvals, what is the process to set up rules? Can users change the automation rules in place, or is that?
Okay, so in terms of automation rules for approvers, is an administrative function, as you'd have Sage admin, you have administration in Paperless. Into administration here, setting up user rules. I talked about earlier about doing rules by supplier or by nominal, etc. It's done in here. It can be done globally by the administrator. So if I go to suppliers here, you can see that VoxHub, I actually saved this during the demonstration. You can see here that I can go through my list and do it by supplier, by nominal, by transaction analysis, project, department, cost center. And I can say, okay, Xavier PLC should always go to a certain person, Steve Richmond. If I do that, every time Paperless sees that supplier, it would add it automatically. And that's done. That's it. It's an administrative function, full training provided, very easy to set up. I hope that answers the question.
How does it work with the Sage 200 standard? Does it work in the same way?
With Sage 200 standard online, because of the restrictions regarding that product, Paperless cannot automatically match and close purchase orders raised in Sage 200 standard online. We can do everything else. We can actually do purchase order requisitions, but we can't match an invoice against that purchase order in Sage. There are just not the tools available to us to be able to do that. There are discussions about other possible solutions, but this is not the time and place to discuss those. So the answer is, apart from matching and closing purchase orders, it works the same with standard online.
There is a couple more questions just missed off the bottom there. I'll quickly rattle them off if that's all right, Steve. The first one is, what email does it need to have to be? Does it have to can be 365, or can you get to like Gmail or anything?
Yeah, Outlook 365. You have the ability in Paperless using Company Inbox Extended to use whatever email address you want, your own. The only other restriction is it cannot be a shared email, so it needs to be a standard email, not shared.
Perfect. Thanks for that. The other one is, does it handle Sage 200 projects assigned to PO lines?
Correct, yes.
Perfect. And the last one's a lengthy one, thanks, Paul, is if I do the full AP process via Paperless, so keeping my requisitions users out of finance, is there an easy way to get a monthly total so I can accrue on AP transactions awaiting approvals in Paperless?
Yes. Yes, there is. Okay, I'm not sure I've fully got that question, but there is in Paperless a number of ways there are a number of reports available. Was this about requisitions? I think it was,
yes.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, a full AP process via Paperless. So keeping my requisition users out of finance.
So in terms of requisitions, there's a number of reports here. So one of the reports is item, and these are opening in Excel, guys. This is all the requisitions that are out for approval. So you can see that's everything in terms of the requisitions. Do you want to add anything to that, Diogo? Or
yes, I just didn't understand here if it's on the requisition side or if it's on the accounts payable side. On the accounts payable side, if you send invoices for approval, you can take either a report, which will show you all the invoices pending approval. Okay, can you take that report, Steve? This will show all the invoices that are currently out there pending approval, okay, on this company with all the relevant accounting data. Or like we mentioned, for accrual purposes, you can also use the dispute method, which means that as soon as you send an invoice for approval, it will be immediately available in Sage, but stopped for payment until final approval is given. So for accrual purposes, you'll have the invoices in Sage. If you are referring to the PO requisition side of things, like Steve has shown, yes, you can take a report which will show you all the requisitions that you currently have out there pending approval with all the relevant accounting data so that you can include that. I hope we managed to answer it.
Yes, thanks, guys. I think that's all of them there.